Approval St. Joe City Commission order. First order of business is, William has a birthday today. We're gonna sing happy birthday to
All
him.
right.
Starting right now.
You know you're setting a precedent here.
I know, we'll get everybody.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear William. Happy birthday to you.
All right, we got that out of the way.
Faces is red here.
No embarrassing, huh?
All right, Jim.
Hey, I want to tell y'all something real
No,
quick.
you done
though.
had your thing.
Listen, tomorrow's John's birthday, so when you're riding around, y'all sing happy birthday to John.
All right.
Don't even call, straight to voicemails.
And I'm 66 today.
Today?
Yeah,
You?
yeah.
It's your birthday too?
I didn't say nothing about it being my birthday. I just said I'm
Oh,
66 today. I am, I'm 66. All right, let's get going.
All right, at the last regular meeting, Mayor, staff was tasked to come up with an ad for legal services on there. I know it's the first time y'all seen it, it was today on there, but we want to get it to you as quickly as possible out there, so it is a special meeting if you want to go ahead and get the ad out there, or y'all can take a week and take a look at this thing, because it is quite lengthy, but we want to get it to you as soon as possible.
Would it mess us up because I have not looked at it at all?
I would probably, I
like
think
to.
I'd probably feel more comfortable if y'all took it and we have it on the agenda for next Tuesday.
I would too.
And if this thing stretches out over a month or two, I would hope that Russ and Tom would go on a monthly basis until y'all get somebody in place, so, yeah. I would take my time and do it right,
Yeah, I want to look at
so
everything.
we'd do that.
And did you copy this from a past, or is this a brand new document for the, I mean?
This was one that we got some help from Mexico Beach on. They had done
Okay.
this last year, so
Okay.
this is one that they helped us out with.
Okay. All right.
All right.
All right. The next item we have is RFQ 2.
If I may, if y'all would look on page 5, paragraph 3, the proposed fee structure. Okay,
Where is it now?
Page 5.
page 5, paragraph 3, proposed fee structure. I would suggest that y'all pay attention to that. I call your attention to that paragraph, because in that one, he wants you ask for a proposed set fixed fee that is inclusive of all service costs that's identified in the scope of work, okay? If you're gonna try to lump all of your services in there, you may be paying for things that you don't ask for, okay? Because the contractor, whoever it would be, would certainly look at that and say, I better go up to include anything that they possibly could ask me about, okay?
With this stated this way, sir, and they do litigate for us, this says that they can't charge any extra for that if litigation is part of the scope of work, is that correct? Because that could cause some issues if they go to court and it takes them a year to settle a case, and they spend a lot of their time on that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, in order to give you, let's suppose it's part of the scope of work and you never have a litigation case, okay? But to cover that in the event that they did, they're gonna add a chunk of change in there.
They're gonna go ahead and charge you for
They're gonna go ahead and
litigation
charge you for that, okay? Or they may not charge you the full price, but, they're gonna have to at least break even on that aspect of it. So, all I'm pointing out to y'all is that you may not wanna say a full, just give us a flat fixed rate for 12 months, okay? You might want to divide it into a retainer with hourly, for attending meetings and those type of things, or, routine legal work, and another cost for litigation, because litigation is very expensive and very specialized.
Well, and under the scope, number 11, performs other legal services and tasks as requested, that means he gets to do whatever we ask him to do for that set price.
Well, that's exactly what I'm pointing out.
That's why he's gonna bump it up.
I like
so he
That's why
can
he's
cover
gonna
that.
bump it up,
Yeah.
So, is that the way y'all do it?
Well, the way our contract with the city for years has been, a relatively small retainer, which I don't think that's changed. I know it hadn't changed since I've been here, and it reasonably should, okay? And that covered the attorney's presence at your regular meetings, okay? And then we just charged you a flat fee for services thereafter, okay?
I believe it's $600 a month plus time.
Jim, are you making note of all that?
I
So
am,
maybe we
yeah.
can tweak that part?
It is, these are, you don't know what you're gonna get exactly. If you get a, all-inclusive low cost, great, but you're exactly right in the fact that somebody could raise up that cost because they're expecting that they're gonna get bombarded by a lot of work and a lot of phone calls from all of us in this room. It's a gamble either way, I agree. But yes, most attorneys work on an hourly rate plus a retainer, he's exactly correct.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions on that?
I would just suggest under scope of work, adding another section that says additional scope as billed, or billable additional scope, something to that nature. Is that what you're kind of thinking? Pulling certain things out of the scope and moving it to a billable scope of work? What are your thoughts? I stumped the attorney.
No, it's just that, that's one way to do that. I mean, for instance, if you take litigation out of this, you know, you're not gonna find a competent litigator that's gonna do it for less than $300 an hour.
Right.
I mean, I don't believe you would, let me put it that way. So, you know, litigation services, you know, you may want to pull that out and have a separate category for that, okay?
Okay.
Anything else?
All right, the next item we have, Mayor, is RFQ 2016-01 for CEI services. This is for the Garrison Avenue Scott project for the paving. We've had to re-advertise this because we didn't have enough interest in it to begin with. This time we had 2 folks that actually applied for them. Both of them are highly qualified, but if you'll turn to page 8. What we did was went through and tried to rank them the best we could. You have Anchor Engineering out of Panama City and SCE out of Weevil Hitchcock. Both of them are highly qualified. Anchor actually, I believe, served the place of Clay Smallwood. Elizabeth did several years ago for the city of Port St. Joe, so she's familiar with it. And Jack Husbands out of Weevil Hitchcock, he does a lot of work in the area, so they're very close. Very talented people, very close race. Our recommendation will be to go with Anchor just because Elizabeth does have that experience working with the city in the past. But both of them are highly qualified.
I know Rex had some questions earlier about that. I think.
Yeah,
I'm glad to answer them.
who does the scoring and how is the scoring done?
We did it just based off of a little short and skinny sheet that's in here that we put in here. We receive these on Fridays, and we tried to put some rhyme to reason to the scoring on
And
it.
I'll be glad to explain if you have questions on that.
Well, I just wondered, you know, I mean, if somebody favors one over the other, the score's gonna be,
Well,
you know, you tend to lean that way a little bit.
And, you know, the bottom line, I think at the end of the day, FDOT gets to make that decision.
Yeah.
So, you know, we had to rank them based on the sheet that Clay gave us, and I actually looked at both of their packets, Mr. Rex, and, you know, you can tell, based on the categories that were given, from a management and staffing capability standpoint, you know, I felt like Southeastern was a little bit higher, but to some degree that was because they were partnering with another engineering firm out of Jackson County, so it wasn't Southeastern by themselves, it was Southeastern and Allday and Howell. So basically you had 2 engineering firms, which provides more staff at that point. So they scored slightly higher from the staffing, you know, standpoint, but as it related down from experience and knowledge, and certainly the familiarity with, you know, the city itself, you know, if I looked at who had more time served in the city of Port St. Joe, it's Anchor CEI Services, simply because the principal, you know, is Elizabeth Moore. who was formerly with Rebel Rish for, 15, 20 years. So she's worked on just about every project we've had.
Yeah.
So that's how the rankings came to be.
Do we have enough bids? I thought that we required 3, but we sent out emails to all the eligible people. So did we
What
get
have to do from
clarification?
here- Well, what we have to do from here is, y'all would give a recommendation on there as to who it would be. I've still got to get approved from FDOT, so FDOT could come back and say no. But we've made every effort. We did it in a larger circulation paper, we did it in the San Juan City paper, twice in a local paper, and emailed about, what was it, about 6 companies, telling them, hey, look, it's out here. So we're hoping FDOT will agree that we've done everything we can do.
Rex, you okay?
Well, we've all kind of leaned toward local every chance we get, and we've said that more than one time up here, and that's why I kind of lean toward Southeastern a little bit, but
Where's Anchor out of?
Panama City. So that's if Southeastern's gonna use local folks, that's fine, but if they're gonna import them out of Jackson County, that could be a different story too. We don't know that, so,
And one thing, we looked at that too, that's one question that come across our mind was, okay, about local preference. By FDOT standards, we can't utilize local preference when you're doing a state contract on there, so. But yes, you are correct, we try to do everything we can local, but as far as giving extra points for a local preference, we're not allowed to.
yeah, I'm not saying do that, I'm just telling you how
But
we
no,
work.
we thought the same thing.
And it's not based on a money bid here, it's based on a grading scale,
Right,
so I don't know if we're bound by that or not,
they're both good companies.
yeah.
Well, I agree with Rex. We always do push the local preference on that, but the one thing also we always push is try to go by staff recommendations. So if everybody's fine with it, I'm gonna make the recommendation and put it into the form of a motion that we go with Anchor and see what FDOT says.
I'll second.
Well, we have a motion from Commissioner Thursby, a second from Mr. Ashbrook. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries 4.
Okay, the next item was the main focal point of the meeting today is the boat ramp funding structure discussion.
I think Dr. Mays here and Mark House is local charter captain, uses the boat ramp a lot.
What do we need to talk about?
Assume they had some recommendations or they had some thoughts or what have you. I think our main contention was that the money that's taken in there be used strictly for boat ramp improvements, or you can't say boat ramp because we may want to enlarge the parking lot sometime. So, I mean, do you guys have any thoughts on that, or are your thoughts strictly using on the ramp exclusively, or could it be used on fixing some boards out on the gazebo?
How y'all want to do a workshop? Is it?
This is actually a meeting
This is
because
a
we had some other things that
Okay.
we had to actually vote on today, so they changed it to a regular meeting. So I mean, I assume the mayor would open it up to any discussion on the subject, Mayor?
That's why I say, would anybody want to come up and,
Yeah,
Give us some-
I would, I mean, I can start.
Come on
off.
up. Yes, sir.
Keep going.
Mayor, what I did too, we put a copy of the sheet in there that tells exactly how much money we've got it since inception date and where the money's been spent.
Where,
We did
what
that.
page is that?
That is page 9, so that way y'all can see that too.
And Jim, is this the entirety since the beginning?
Yes.
Or is this just this year?
No, that's entirety, since we've opened it up.
That's
so-
about a year and a half.
You may wanna look at that.
No, that's about three seasons.
3 seasons worth.
That's about 21,000 a year is what it's
Okay.
been at.
Yeah, I think this is the 3rd year we've done it.
So, anyway, I thought it was a workshop, it doesn't matter to me, I just had a couple things that I thought that I wanted to bring up and get you guys to consider. You know, one of the things I was trying to do was offer my services to help if I could improve the revenue source and the amount of revenue that's generated down there. But before I did that, I wanted to make sure that we had kind of come to a real clear understanding about how we were going to take care of the money. So I thought that would not get the cart before the horse, but talk about the horse first. And so let's talk a little bit about what we're going to do. Obviously, this thing's a revenue generator, and it was started that way, which, like I said last time, thank you, William, and all y'all for coming up with that idea. And it's going to be, it is a great idea, and we're going to make it even better. So today what I want to do is, in my mind, I was going to try to clarify what was going to happen to this money. And, you know, I spoke to all y'all by telephone earlier, and kind of everybody agreed, yeah, this is topics we need to bring up. And, you know, one of the things we were going to try to do is try to make this money, you know, protected. In other words, when we come up with this fund, that we were going to, in writing, come up with some methods to keep it as an entity for which it was intended. And we're going to talk a little bit about that too, about what do we want to do with the money. So to start with, I talked to Tom this morning on the phone, and he talked last time at the meeting about creating some kind of an ordinance that would require a supermajority to change it. In other words, if we go through all this effort today and say, hey, we're going to come up with some policies, you know, it'd be nice if 5 years down the road, if we had some guys that decided they wanted to get their hands on the money, 3 of them couldn't meet and change the whole thing. And he did say, or at least he indicated to me that it is possible to come up with something that would require a supermajority to change. Now, that doesn't mean that 3 guys couldn't decide to repeal the ordinance that said it takes a supermajority to do it, but that would require more than just 3 guys getting together at a city commission meeting and changing it. So it would require, you know, a few more legislative steps, if you will, and I think that's about as good as we're going to get. So one of the things I wanted to propose is that we come up with something that we all agree on, and then we make it an ordinance that would require a supermajority to change it. And so from what Tom was telling me, then that is possible. That, like I said, it could be changed by 3 people, but it would take 3 people to repeal the ordinance, and then that would require some legislative steps to do so. It would give it a little bit of an additional safeguard, so it couldn't be changed under the cover of night, so to speak. So that was one thing I wanted to talk about. The other was I wanted to talk about you know, the fund itself, and I'm calling it the fund. I mean, just the money generated by the boat ramp. You know, what are we going to spend it on? One of the recommendations I had was that we come up with kind of a tiered description of that. And the first tier would be what we all agreed on to begin with, which is boat ramp maintenance. You know, the first priority of money spent would be to maintain the organism that generates the revenue. You know, so that would be priority number 1. And only when that priority had been fully met could priority number 2 come into effect.
Well,
Do you have a copy of this?
Pardon me?
Do you have a copy of this?
I don't. Is it right here?
Yeah, it's in there, yeah.
I guess I do.
So my question is this, you know, when we put together an ordinance, and we're gonna shield the boat ramp money, and we're going to say it can, in the ordinance, it's got to say what it's gonna be used for, and only for. And so we get it, we think like we want it, and then 6 months later, we say, oh man, we left this out of the ordinance. Now, do we have to have a supermajority vote to put something additional in the ordinance, or what, Mr. Attorney?
I would say yes.
So once, you know, it's,
If you're going to amend the ordinance,
yeah.
it only takes 3 to amend an ordinance.
Sure. And I'm not sure what constitutes a supermajority. The only one I know of off the top of my head is millage. If you're going to go over a certain percentage on millage, there's a state statute on there about a supermajority, but there's only a few little things that'll govern us to require a supermajority. I don't know.
I mean, you can write the ordinance to give us, to require a supermajority to spend it in places other than what the ordinance says, okay? But, you know, as Dr. May pointed out, it only takes 3 to just change the ordinance. You just abolish the ordinance and it's done with, and you can do anything you want to with it.
But then we would have to define what we describe as a supermajority being 4 out of 5 votes, let's say.
Well, that's the definition of a supermajority on a 5-board thing is 4.
Is that, okay.
Consensus would be
So
5.
It's written out there somewhere,
Yeah,
so.
the supermajority is 4.
It would be 4.
It is 4. I mean, that's an easy one.
4.
Okay.
You can't do 5.
Yeah, I didn't.
5 is consensus, 4 is supermajority, and 3
Okay.
is basically the legal description, I think, of majority, so.
Yeah.
But, I mean, so all I'm saying is, this really, I'm not a lawyer, I talked to Tom for a little while this morning. He basically said what Russia said, and that is, look, the only thing an ordinance does is just makes everybody go through one more legislative step to change it. But and could you do it all at the same time? I don't know, but maybe that would be part of the ordinance, is that, you know, if this ordinance is gonna be amended, it has to be, have to be advertised to the general public, and it can't happen within 14 days of the original ordinance. I don't know if that's legal.
If you're going to amend the ordinance, you always have to advertise it.
So that was what Tom was saying, it requires,
You have to go through the regular ordinance process
Okay.
to amend the ordinance. If you're gonna repeal it, you gotta go through the regular ordinance, 2 readings, 10 days apart,
yeah.
you know.
So that's all we can get. That's what I was under the impression, is that's all the protection we're gonna be allowed to get, is that. But that's better than nothing to me.
Yeah. Wouldn't an ordinance that provided extra steps to spend that money, i.e. we decide to pull money out of the boat ramp fund, could we require ourselves to have a public workshop, and then of course it can't be voted on until the following meeting? That gives the public two additional opportunities to come and speak.
Well, I mean, to me, if I'm just trying to expedite things. I think the first thing we need to do is agree that an ordinance might be a good idea, and I think it sounded to me like everybody kind of thought just then that it's a doable thing. Repealing the ordinance is doable. Doing away with the ordinance is doable, but it has to be done legislatively, evidently by description, with some time intervals and some public knowledge. So I think step 1 is we got an ordinance that, I'm just speaking hypothetically, we got an ordinance that we all like. So that ordinance says supermajority to change it. So now let's talk about what's in the ordinance a little bit. So I'm going to move on to my next kind of thing that I have here. And that is, you know, to me, the ordinance ought to state, and this is just my opinion, but I think I'm echoing some of what your sentiments were, is that primarily this money needs to be spent on maintaining the organism that generates the revenue. Which, you know, if we want to define that as the boat ramp and its contiguous
Surrounding.
dockage,
Parcel.
you know, and surrounding areas, whether it be parking, whether it be dock, whether it be whatever. I mean, again, no offense, but we consider an over-lawyer this thing, but by and large, you know, we need to just come up with the best thing we can come up with. But yeah, I would say something along those lines, you know, parking, dockage, ramp, anything that has to do with the organism that's generating
In
the
the
money.
ordinance, you could have a legal description of the property that you want to.
Yes, we could, but we could also basically loosely categorize it as what we just said, as dockage, ramp, parking, and surrounding, you know, areas. And then that would be the primary, and then the secondary would be any area that's contiguous to the boat ramp, which if we wanted to improve, if we had some extra money, we wanted to improve Tim Nelson's Park down there, or whatever else on the other side, or the city pier, or whatever, you know. I mean, to me, that would be one way of doing it, where we guaranteed that our original intent was honored, and if those obligations were honored, then the next thing would be, okay, if we have some extra money, and we want to spend it on something that's contiguous, then good, and if y'all want to get into a third layer, then that's discussable, but that was kind of what I thought we should do, is first, the boat ramp, the dockage, the parking, and the contiguous things that allow us to generate income through the boat ramp being primary, and then secondary being whatever y'all want to define it as, but I would think contiguous properties would be the best way to do the secondary level of spending. And then the other thing I was going to put in there, and I know some of you guys indicated that there were some interest in you know, not having your hands tied, is having funds available to the city for I don't know if you want to call it emergency, or if you want to call it special needs, or whatever it might be. If, you know, you needed $3,000 to get a $3,000 matching grant to put in a playground that was going to go down there. I'm just making this stuff up, and you didn't have the $3,000. Well, could you get into that fund and borrow some money from it and pay it back? And I think that probably wouldn't be a bad thing to have in there. I do think we ought to put a specific limit on that amount, and my first idea would be 10% of the funds balance can never, no more than that can ever be, you know, borrowed. And then there need to be some type of a specific payback provisions that the city has to honor about paying the money back. That would give you guys some you guys and whoever replaces you or whatever, some flexibility if a real opportunity came up and, you know, you needed a couple $1,000s here or there to make something happen, you'd have it, you know. But again, I'd like to see a very specific limit on that and some very specific, I think this is, you know, important for all you guys. Y'all all indicated this, that y'all want to be transparent about it. And let's tell people this is the limit that we can borrow and we're going to pay it back if we do borrow. So basically that was pretty much my 3 things I wanted to try to come up with today, and I wanted to pretty much keep this pretty concise, and that is, let's come up with an ordinance. I think an ordinance is a good idea, and it does protect the funds as good as we can protect it. In that ordinance, let's come up with some specifics about what the money can be spent on, primarily and secondarily and tertiary, if y'all want to come up with a third thing. Third, let's come up with a cap on the amount of money that you guys can borrow from the fund. And let's try to come up with, I would like to see some parameters on what y'all consider. I don't know, to me that's not a sticking point. Whether y'all want to come up with some parameters on what that is, whether it's, you know, we need to get, I don't want to see it spent on 10 loads of dirt to haul in because somebody's complaining that their lot's low or whatever, you know what I mean? But if there was a real need that the city thought was good, then, but whether y'all want to put strings on that part of it, I don't know, but I do think we do need to put some serious strings on what the money can be spent on primarily and secondarily, and then how much you can borrow, I think is the thing I'd like to see set in writing. So
Tim,
Go ahead.
this revenue is 64,658, is that to when? Is that present?
That's through September 30th.
That's through September 30th?
Yes, sir.
No October at all?
Right.
Okay, and, you know, just looking it over, I was looking over, we spent, out of that money, we spent about a little over $28,000 on stuff that actually was done down there, dock repair, seagrass signage, those type of things. And then we did spend almost $12,000 out of pocket, something that wasn't done down there. And I can swallow a little bit of the police radios, but I think they do a service down there. I think they need to do more of a service than they're doing now. Maybe.
Well, I'd just like to say this, Bo. I have, and this isn't because I'm smart or anything, I've just been around a little bit and, you know, seen how people do this in certain places, and maybe I don't know the details of how everything does, but I know some rough things about how people do things. I believe that that thing down there is going to be a great revenue generator. What I wanted to do is first, let's come up with how we're going to protect this money, because once that happens, then you're going to see me get real excited about sharing with y'all some great ideas about how we can really, without any political liability and no real money out of pocket, how we can turn that thing into a very nice revenue generating organism
What
for the city.
percent of people you think that Longstep boat there are paying?
Oh, all of my calculations have gone on 50%, but I don't have any scientific data for
See,
that. I'm
that's
just
one thing
throwing
I'm
in
kind of getting
50%.
at. We're gonna go to the thing of making an ordinance. We need to put some teeth in it as far as them paying.
I've got a whole other list of
It doesn't
things.
cause anybody in the city, it don't cause anybody in the county, and I'm all for that, but these out-of-county people, a lot of times, they do nothing but come here and fish. They don't even buy the gas here. Now, a lot of them do, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot out of Panama City come here and don't do nothing but take our fish back with them. And, I just don't think that's right, you know?
I guarantee you,
So we need to put
we can
something in there to make them pay.
double our revenues down there with zero expenditure by the city.
We had a
With no
top
problem.
executive, I can't remember his name, out of a bank in Tallahassee, send me a letter saying he would never put his boat in here again if we were gonna charge him. Executive, a CEO of a bank can't get $100 a daggum year for a boat permit.
We're gonna have
We don't need him down
I was
here.
gonna say that,
Stay in Tallahassee, go to Crawfordville. I don't want them here if they're not gonna spend money.
all of my friends.
This is our thing for them.
All my friends that come to Port St. Joe can't believe that you can still launch your boat at St. Joe boat launch after 9 o'clock in the morning, because down there, they're all cabled off. Parking lot's full.
Yeah.
You go on, you start at well, Mark can tell you about this stuff. You start down there at Tarpon Springs and you keep looking for a boat ramp if you don't get there early enough. That's just what you do. And that's the way it is. And they don't even, it's not about how much you pay, it's just can you even launch?
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously, we're not there yet,
Let's put some
but
teeth
my
in it.
point is, it'd be real simple here, really simple with the manpower we have and the people we have in place, just to put some ideas that I'm already ready to share with you guys and ready to make it happen. But I do think that it's important for, to protect the money, but I think that it's important for the stakeholders, and everybody's big about stakeholder participation. Well, one of the things that I'd like to see done is I'd like to see the stakeholders in that boat ramp down there, who are all the people who are using it, I'd like to see us make a real effort at getting in touch with each one of them, and then let's send a survey out to them, asking them some specific questions about what they're willing to do and not do, and let's get some input from that, and let you guys, we can make some decisions on moving forward on how we can improve that ramp and how we can improve the revenue potential of that ramp. And I just think that it's going to be simple and easy and cheap to do, but a lot of it's going to depend on the stakeholders knowing that, hey, you know what, we've dotted our I's and crossed our T's as well as we can on how we're going to protect this money. And once the stakeholders know that, then they're going to get behind this project 100%. And like you say, the people who aren't behind it, they're minimized anyway. And the people that are behind it are going, man, I'm all for this. This is a great opportunity. We know we've got to take care of our boat ramp. We appreciate the boat ramp. We like the fact that the money's going back in there. But if they don't have that promise on the back end, then no offense to you guys, but just politicians have a bad name right now. And, you know, I mean, people are like, oh, this is just one more dollar we're going to put in the pot, and they're going to replace it with something else. And so we want to make sure that that argument is just nullified right off the bat. And I think that's what we're here for today, is to make sure that we come up with something that's going to allow us to go to people and say, oh no, we've got this as ironclad as you can get it.
I guess I got a couple of questions. Because you and I talked, and I agreed with you on a lot of things. I would just want to make a couple of statements, and I want to ask a question. Do you feel like that what we have now is broke?
I just think it can be improved, greatly improved. Just the revenues can be greatly improved.
All right, what
I mean, just as simple as if I own that boat ramp, that sign down there would be about 4x4, and it would say, boat ramp fee, $10, pay here.
do you believe?
I mean, it'd be as simple as that. I'd have a box in there. I've seen people not put money in there because there's no room to put any more money in the box.
Let me finish.
I'm sorry. So yes, I do think it's broken, but not to the point where it's not functioning somewhat.
Because since I talked to you, I've been out in the public talking to people, talking to boat ramp people, and I still agree with a lot of things you said. Do you believe that the city or the county residents should be paying?
Not if they don't want to.
No, and see, that's what I've gotten the biggest thing of. And for 3 years, we've had this going. We've spent $8,000 on police radios and a lake fountain that's down there now that we're fixing to do, which is part of that area, in my opinion. I want to make it better. When I made the motion that we do this, the boat ramp fees, I wanted all the money kept down in there. But I guess my question is to you, why are you so concerned that we're not going to spend the money where we should?
Here's my vision
I mean,
of this
this
thing.
board made this policy. We came up with it. We're doing about $21,000 a year. And through every bit of this, I've had 2 people in all of the city of Port St. Joe come to me and said that they're not happy with the way we're doing it. So I guess that's why I'm asking.
Oh, I mean, I think I started this conversation, William, with a thank you for starting this off. I mean,
You did.
please don't misunderstand my intention here. All I'm saying is we got a good idea that you guys have. It's working. I feel like with a little bit of input and from me being just going around and seeing how other people do it and what's going on, I believe the city is leaving a lot of money on the table.
And I think,
And with just a little bit of tweaking,
Dusty's has
just a little
not
tweaking, we can make it
aiming,
better.
he's not aiming any of this at us.
No.
He's thinking 10 years down the road, if none of us are here,
Yeah.
and those folks that are here then see a big pot of money over here, and we have a need in the city about budget time, and it's easy to reach over there and just take it on out and spend it in the general fund.
And I am still for that, I mean.
And so I
you know, we
don't
talk- I'm still
personally
for
have a
that.
problem with the ordinance. I think that's the only way.
But I mean, William, I'm gonna make sure I'm answering your question. I mean, certainly what he said is correct, so I wanna make sure you understand that. This is a big deal going forward for the city. You guys have come up with a great idea. Y'all put a lot of effort into this. I believe maybe a little bit that you guys don't understand how big a deal this could be. Because y'all don't use, I mean, maybe y'all do, but my feeling is y'all don't use boat ramps as much as I do. And you don't travel as much as I do and use boat ramps in other places. And, so I don't, y'all may not grasp the magnitude of what the potential is down there for this place. And so that's what I'm trying to get y'all to do is not certainly say, hey, this isn't good. I'm just trying to get everybody to take a step back and say, we can make this a whole lot better, and moving forward 5, 10, 15 years down the road, I'd like the city to be able to look back and say, hey, these guys had vision, they had, they grasped maybe what this was gonna happen, and that's all I'm trying to get done.
I was not attacking you, I was just wondering, was there something that we did? Because
No,
I
answer
don't
that is
want to
no.
spend this money anywhere but other than that boat ramp.
Yeah.
But at the same time, how much was our budget off this year, Jim?
Was it?
In the beginning?
Somewhere around $80,000 to $90,000 is what we had with all the
And
wish list.
this is my thoughts, and hear me out on this. Okay, we have police radios that need to be bought. We don't have the money in our budget to buy them, okay? I don't think that there's probably one citizen in the city of Port St. Joe that wouldn't take money to pay for police radios out of this fund rather than us having to go up on ad valorem taxes. This money here is not paid by one single citizen of the city of Port St. Joe or anybody in the county. Do you think that maybe, like I talked to you that day, that maybe a pay station we had talked about originally, some
All the
cameras, some
above,
better
William. I mean, we
signage?
got, I mean, not me, I mean, there's just a lot of things we could do that just, I mean, look, we went down there and put a little sign up, an ordinance up in a tiny little box with a lock on it, and look what it's done. And painted some stripes on the ramp. We haven't had any enforcement, nobody's been required to do anything, you do whatever you want down there, it don't matter, nobody's paying attention, and we still collected $65,000 in 3 years. I mean, all I'm saying is, like Bo was indicating, with a little bit more attention to detail, we can take this great idea that you guys had and multiply it to a much greater,
We
fund.
can, my problem with that is what I don't wanna do is I don't wanna make it to where, okay, we got a great police department, but I know there's one or two of them on there that'd be down there every day writing everybody a ticket. I don't wanna start that. I want it to feel that,
This has got to be done right, and it's going to require some leadership from the city commission, and part of it's going to be that. I mean, the last thing we want to do is run people off, you know what I mean, for no reason.
That's what
But
I'm
on the other hand, if they refuse, if somebody comes through 65 miles an hour down Reed Avenue, they need to get a ticket, and so, I mean, we got to decide, are these rules, or are they not rules, or do we want to enforce them or not enforce them? And these are all discussions that we are going to have. What my goal was today was to try to get everybody to agree, what are we gonna do with this money? What are we gonna do with it? I feel confident in saying, well, I think history shows, we're gonna generate funds down there. I don't know how much, I think it can be substantially more than this.
and I agree with that.
But what I'm trying to get, what I would like to clear up is what you were indicating, what if the city is short 20 grand on balancing their budget? I mean, it's gonna be a lot easier to go down there and rob this $75,000 fund as opposed to going back and making some hard choices and doing some budget cuts. And that's where I think the stakeholders of the boat ramp are gonna be a little bit, in my opinion, I'm not willing to go to the effort I want to go to try to help the city generate these monies if that's what the money's going to be used for.
And I don't think that's true, but,
Well, it might not be true for you, but the next guy that comes up here has no emotional attachment to that boat ramp, it will be true for them, because it's just money at that point.
But not everybody makes the money that you make in this city. you make a lot of money in the city of
What's
Fort
that got
St.
to do, what's
Jude.
that got to do with anything?
Joe, so, I mean, if this little guy here, I don't wanna penalize him because he wants to go fishing.
Well, I don't understand your question.
What I'm saying is make some hard decisions. You're saying going up on ad valorem
No,
taxes rather than
I'm
using the
saying,
money?
yeah, hard decisions like, or if our budget is not balanced, and we need to make hard decisions about cutting, everybody's,
We're
look,
gonna get rid of somebody instead of, taking $20,000 out of the
that's
background.
the question we need to answer today.
Well, no, I'm not.
Exactly.
I'm not.
But
I'm
I'm
not
just
gonna
saying,
fire somebody
that
if
is
I've
the
got
question
money
that needs to be
sitting there in our boat ramp fee that's not paid by one citizen in the city of Port St. Joe or not one person. The most people make around here is probably $15,000 to $25,000.
But I'm having a hard time understanding what you're saying, so
Well, what's the hard decision? You said
The
that
hard-
we
the
had
hard
to get rid of
decision-
somebody that works for us.
William, let me back up a step. Today, my goal about being here was very simple. I wanted to try to figure out what the city was willing to do, because you guys are the ones that said it now. I mean, I'm not here just because I made this up. I heard y'all at 2 or 3 different meetings, and y'all went back and were talking about, man, I think we might need to go back and pay this money back. And not saying everybody said that, but it was like, we made a commitment that this money was gonna be used for a very specific purpose. That's what I heard when I came to my meetings. Now, maybe I didn't hear right, and we can go dig up the meeting minutes and I can figure it out, but that's what I heard. And I'm just one person, but I feel like I can go back and dig up the minutes and vindicate some of that feeling.
And also-
What I'm here for today is to say, okay, we all feel this way, why don't we perpetuate that feeling with an ordinance that's gonna protect this money, so the money that we raise down there will be used for very specific purposes that we all agree on, but that have some limitations. And I would say one of the limitations would be that, yeah, I mean, we can't just take, to me, there ought to be a maximum amount that you can borrow out of this fund. And assuming that what you guys said to begin with was true, which was money generated at the boat ramp was going to be used for the boat ramp, however you want to define boat ramp. Assuming that was true in the past meetings that we went to, how are we going to make that a written statement that we can all agree is going to be binding moving forward, with the exception of ordinances being repealed and going through the legislative steps that you always have to change things? I'm up here to try to get the commission to commit to some stuff like that. And I think that's the discussion we need to be having. I mean, are we willing to really do that? Or is this still going to be an open-ended fund that we can have access to at any given time, in any given place? And so that's why I'm here. I mean, exactly.
Well, Dusty, if I can, I'm going to try to speak before you speak up. I agree with 99% of everything that you say. I think that we're putting the cart before the horse. I will personally tell you that I never intend to spend this boat ramp money on anything other than boat ramps. And barring a natural disaster where we have no other choice, I will continue to do so. I think that we need to see what we're getting for our $800,000 and figure out at that time, well, what does it cost to maintain it? I don't think anyone up here disagrees that that money should first and foremost be used to maintain the boat ramp that we have. But we don't know what that figure is. We don't even know what it looks like yet. I see it on paper, but that doesn't help. I'd love to have John go out there and have our engineer go out there and say, we need to put X amount of dollars away every year, and we need to do X, Y, and Z every year to maintain it. I'm all about keeping new things new, and let's do it right. We're getting a brand new $800,000 toy, and let's keep it working for as long as we can. That said, after we figure out what those costs are going to be, I would be more willing to sit down and discuss ordinances for future projects. Problem with identifying future projects is you don't agree with him, he doesn't agree with this one over here, and nobody agrees. I want to tear the park out, move it to Maddox, and put a parking lot so we have more parking. That's me. You may not have that same view. I think that there's a lot of different ideas out there on how to spend it, but that all needs to be workshopped out after we find out what's left after maintenance cost. I'm 100% on board, and we can do this tomorrow if we all agree on enforcing that fee a little bit more. That's fine, but is it really that important today? I think once the dock is done, March comes along, that's when the real money starts rolling in. I just think that we're moving too quick right now. I'd like to sit back and take a breath and see what we have before we start figuring out how much it's going to cost to maintain it.
Yeah, I think you need to just listen to everything Dusty said today and just take a deep breath and go back and see, okay, what can we do to make a compromise? Because I'm not against. I just want to do it right, and I don't feel like we've done anything wrong. And the only time after I heard anything is when Mr. Parker got up there the night and said, guys, we made a promise. The next week it was in the Star. And then we started hearing something.
There's just a lot more research that needs to be done, and again, you know, I've had a couple of meetings to think about all this, and it just seems like we're kind of being forced to, hey, let's make a decision. I'm not gonna rush in on, because it is important, and it's a lot of money, and we can make it even more.
Well, I hear what you're saying, and again, I'm treating this like a workshop, so because that's what I thought it was, but I know we're in a meeting, so tell me if I need to sit down and be quiet, I might have overstayed my welcome, whatever, but again, I hear what you're saying. I'm not trying to push y'all into doing anything. I mean, I am gonna say this as a private citizen that, you know, you guys have been elected to do this job, and God bless y'all for doing it, because I know there's not anything in it for y'all, it's just hard work. But I got a lot of stuff going on too in my life and my world, and for me to stay focused and on point and talking to lawyers and talking to different cities and going to boat ramps and talking to people and seeing how people, I got kind of a limited attention span. My ADD kicked in, and I got other things I got going also. I'm offering my services to the city, and certainly that doesn't mean anything, whether y'all want to use them or not. I would ask that the kicking the can, I understand that. I'm all for everybody taking a breath and backing up and all that, but I'm only here because I've been to a couple of meetings, and I heard the city commission say, to me, very clearly, they made a commitment to spend that money on the boat ramp. I'm here to kind of hold y'all to it. I mean, that's what I'm here for. Now, I disagree with you, David. I think if we sit here and try to get involved and get John to give you a money figure, a dollar cents figure on what it's going to cost to maintain a boat dock, you got that formula in your back pocket, or?
Well, since I'm asked a question now, I'll give you my opinion. I think that, you know, in this particular case, I mean, my opinion, for what it's worth, you know, if it's an ordinance we want to do, I would merely, you know, put a boundary. I would say this is the facility, whatever it may or may not be, includes part of Frank Pate Park or, you know, boat ramp in its entirety. So you have a boundary. So whatever money's generated, that's your boundary.
A geographic boundary or?
A geographic boundary, exactly, correct. And that's your facility, if you will, which you would define in your ordinance.
Right.
All right. So, and to a lot of degree, Dave is correct. From a money perspective, it's no different than creating a capital improvement plan for the city. You know, these are the things we want to do. You've got knowns and you have unknowns. You've got wishes and you have, you know, factual or actual things you're going to have to maintain. So in any CIP plan, those things get balanced and shifted and changed depending on conditions, you know, storms, you know, events. There's a lot of things or factors that can change that and shift it from one year to the next and, you know, bring this one forward. So to me, that's the way I would manage this.
I mean, I think that's all I'm asking.
No differently than what we do on a normal basis with, you know,
We
all
talked about
utilities.
that early on. And,
That's all I'm asking for.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And I
that.
I think we probably all agree on that.
You know, I mean-
And, you know, I appreciate your concern, Dusty, as a private citizen, taking your time to be concerned about something in the city that a lot of folks aren't concerned about, you know, other things and wish they were. But, you know, you want it improved, you want it to look good, and you're willing to spend your time and effort at no, you know.
Whatever, I mean, yeah, and so I guess just going back to what I'm asking you guys to do, and again, this is probably, I don't know, I just, like I said, I thought this was a workshop, we're just gonna talk, so I'm just gonna continue to talk like that. So I'm not asking y'all to make any motions or do anything, I'm just putting my voice out there.
Can I,
Yeah,
can I interrupt you
Yes,
just for a
you
moment?
can.
And can we get Mark just to come up for a
Yes, sir.
minute?
Yep,
And then
yep.
we'll go back to you. But
okay, no, I think that's a good
some
idea.
of them may have to go here, so
Yep,
they
yep.
don't want to hear what Mark had to say.
Well, I'm gonna echo some of the things that Dusty said. You know, the whole idea behind this, and I was one that, you know, as this started coming about, it was like, okay, if this money is gonna be kept down there, I'm all for it. And help sell that out into the community, okay? And you know, looking at the expenditures, okay, we have spent, you know, over 10% someplace else. You know, closer to 20% someplace else. Now, I understand the need for the police radios. I mean, you know, I don't have a heartburn with that. What I did have a heartburn was you took it from someplace that was promised with no avenue to pay it back. Or say, you know, hey, you know, we'll put part of it back or something like that. It was just, let's grab it and go, okay? I kind of liken that to, you know, your, and most every one of you guys up there are parents, but you started putting money in your college fund for your kids, and someone came along, you know, and, okay, tree fell on the house or something like that, you had to pay your deductible, but are you not gonna put that money back in there for your kids? You know, I mean, that's the same type of thing. Yeah, stuff does come up. There needs to be provisions, again, where you know, something comes up, massive sewer line breaks, something like that. We need some money. I understand that. But, you know, okay, we got to borrow $10,000 out of here. Over the next 2 years, we're going to put that back because that's where it was designated for. As Dusty says, I moved here from South Florida. You cannot, after 8 o'clock in the morning, find a place to park at any boat ramp. Okay? This thing, and as the population down there increases, and it's growing exponentially compared to us, it's going to start moving this way. We're the last place. The revenue stream is going to get bigger here. We can do a lot of improvements, and I call it the waterfront, okay? But, you know, that boat ramp and the restrooms, the parking and those things, you know, that's what's generating it. Let's make those better so we, you know, use the money there to improve those so we improve the revenue stream. And yes, enforcement, you know, needs to be done. We've got signs down there that have no parking. I've had people that I've come in at, you know, I get there at 5 o'clock in the morning. Parking's not an issue. Getting out some days is an issue. There's signs that say no parking. People pull right in behind you. I've called the police 4 times last summer because I was blocked in by 2 to 3 cars just strictly in front of a no parking sign. They were very nice. They hunted the people down and said, look, guys, you blocked somebody in, either come move it or we'll tow it, you know, and the people were readily available. You know, those type of what I call positive reinforcement to the rules are a lot better, you know, than, like you said, you know, let's write them a ticket and break it off in them to start with. Those type of things. There are a lot of people, I'd say, you know, the compliance with the boxes is about 50% from what I see it. And I'm down at that ramp 200 days a year, okay? A lot of the things is, you know, some signage coming into the ramp that you've got to pay a fee. They see it right there at the ramp, they pull in there and then it's, oh heck, and then they're all scrambling in their pocket and they got half the ramp blocked. You know, some of those things where, you know, some money needs to be spent. But, you know, it's kind of one of those things, if we agreed to do something to start with, you know, we're in a national election now, and, you know, part of one of the candidates is trust factor. You know, what are we, you know, if we say we're going to do something a certain way, I think we ought to stick to it. I mean, that's my 2 cents. We've got a chance there to have a great area. And, you know, we're getting a new facility, you know, new and improved. But when you put $800,000 worth of dock in there, okay, you think of 1% a year just to maintain it, that's $8 grand a year. That's almost a third of your revenue stream right there, just as it sits, just to maintain it. And that's if nothing happens, nobody, you know, drives off in there and buries half the dock, you know, hitting it with a car, somebody comes in there too fast and, you know, things like that. So I would just caution that, you know, we need to come up with some avenues that protect this money in a way that, like Dusty said, you know, okay, if you need to borrow some money, you know, there's a cap. There's also, you know, you've got to have some reasons, and there's got to be a payback, okay? I mean, because you can't go rob from somebody else's fund in the city, you know, the street department for the police department or something like that, without putting the money back there sometime. Why would you treat this any different? You know.
Let me say this, and I said at the last meeting, I am the one that brought up and made the motion to buy the police radio.
Man, you got us.
So I, you know, don't mind taking the flak for it, and this is a, you know, a aftershock from that, I guess you would say, and I don't mind, but once again, I agree that, looking back on it, now, I'm not one to go back and say, okay, let's go back and pay it back. Now, that's over and done with. But I do understand that we do need to have some kind of ordinance to protect this money for the future exposits that come in here and want to spend it on something that's not a program.
Well,
There you go.
you know, and I read that in the paper. You know, very few times y'all see me at a meeting. 99.9% of it is with that boat ramp. That boat ramp facilitates me to make a living in this town. And I make a fairly decent living because I have access to that bay. But I also generate, in doing that, a lot of revenue for the city in the fact that 90% of my customers stay in and around Gulf County. They eat, they're here a minimum of a week at a time. And when I'm doing 200 trips a year and the average is a family of 4, that's a lot of money. And there's 10 of us now that do that, okay? It's not the whole economy, but it is a good chunk of it. You know, it upset me that the money was gotten. I understand the purpose. The biggest thing was no provision to put it back, okay?
Right.
You know, that was the problem I had. Things come up. I mean, you know, I put money in a CD and every once in a while, you know, got to do, you know, last year I blew a foot on the motor that was $4,500 that I did not count on. But, you know, I went and cashed in a CD, but, you know, and it wasn't long after I did that, my wife said, you know, when is that going back? So, you know, those type of things, it's fair is fair.
I realize there's a lot more of you guys out there that feel exactly the same way you do, that sometimes don't feel comfortable getting up and talking in front of the commission and so forth. So I know there are more out there, and then it's not just coffee shop or bar talk.
Right.
Some sincere folks that feel the same way you do.
You know, it's, again, I've lived in other places, and, you know, and I chose to move here because it's a little bit slower, a little bit more laid-back lifestyle. That ramp and that bay is a good moneymaker for this area. And, you know, and it can be a good moneymaker for the city, you know, and it could be a good stopgap in some areas, you know, with the revenue, because I can see this revenue fund building a lot higher, okay? And yeah, something comes up and, you know, there's an emergency and, you know, sewer line blows out on 10th Street and, you know, there's a big sinkhole in the thing and, you know, it's toward the end of the budget year and you know, y'all need to get some money, that's fine, okay? But, you know, there's a provision to put it back because that's, I mean, we all help each other out. Okay, but, you know, I mean, to me, it's kind of fair is fair, okay? You know, we're doing something for something, you know, we're, you know, just because someplace makes more money and, you know, I make more money than somebody else doesn't mean, you know, I should burden more of the, you know, every time you come running to me just because you need something extra. You know, that's just kind of my, any questions for me?
No, but I think at this point in time, we ought to, go ahead and let, our attorneys look at drawing us up an ordinance for this. We can tweak it as we go before we make it an ordinance, or at least let's get started on something. I think something needs to be done.
I'd like to see a draft ordinance of some sort that we can pick out and, like you say, tweak and, I mean, we're not
How do
going
we,
to vote on it right off the
how do we
bat.
define, are we defining geographic? Do we want to stick to a parcel? What about services that might be needed that are used at the boat ramp? I mean, how do we define
Well,
that?
that's why I say they come up with draft ordinance and we can pencil in those things that we feel like needed, but we said early on when I asked Russ that in the ordinance, if we describe an area, we'd have to have almost like a legal description. I assume that would define those boundaries, is that correct, Russ, or would it be just a
Not
rough?
necessarily, it
Okay.
can be.
We
a
could
rough
have a
thing. You
rough-
could say, you know, it encompasses the bathrooms south, or, you know, Ball Street,
Right, okay,
Balsall
okay.
south, you know,
Okay.
west
Yeah.
there. I
So,
mean, it doesn't have to, you
We
don't have
come
to.
up with something like that, I think that'd be a start.
Well, and the only reason I say that, Commissioner Brissette, is that, you know, I think both of them agree parking is a huge issue. And, you know, if we said, let's move the pirate ship park to Maddox, move it to Maddox property where it's shaded, and we wanted to make more parking area, is that okay? Can we pay for that to be installed somewhere else? You know what I mean?
Well, I would say if-
I don't want it to be so restrictive that we can't do it.
Yeah, I would say if parking was, you know, inside what we spend it on, then, you know, I guess.
Absolutely.
That's a stretch, but I think
I
you
mean, I
could.
think that all I say we, you know, we gotta be plurality here. I think all we wanna know is, I love John's idea. I mean, geography, and even if you wanted to include services in geography, doesn't matter to me. Something that delineates this fund, some kind of idea about what we're gonna do about payback provisions, and maybe some maximum amount that you guys can access, with the exception of a natural disaster, or something like that. You know what I mean? I'm all for giving you guys all the flexibility in the world. I really am.
I gotta go to work, guys, thank y'all.
But I do draw the line at, you know, being able to just take it for anything. I think that that's enough, that's something that should be in the ordinance, maybe that we should have some more or less specific things. So to me, that's all I think we really want is those three items, you know, in the ordinance.
Jim and Russ probably heard enough in discussion today that they come up with something we can start with, and then and the ordinance has to go through the process of advertising, and once we all agree that looks good and the public comes in and says that's good, then we do it.
That's what my hope was for today, that y'all would
6 months.
start that process.
But
Yeah.
I think we're there. You think so, Mayor?
Yeah.
Thank y'all.
Okay.
All right, we through with that? What else we got, Jim?
Just one last thing, Mayor. The last meeting we talked briefly about, Ms. Kim Bodine would be in town this week to discuss about the gym. She wants to reach out to each of you to check your schedule for Wednesday. I have Kim's number here too, but she wanted to schedule a time to meet with each of you, so she wanted to try to do on Wednesday. Kim Bodine's number
We're just playing golf in the afternoon, you better get you in the morning.
Hey, I got all morning.
That's what I said, it gets in the morning.
Hey.
but her number's 832-9962, or I can try to set it up myself, whatever y'all want to do. But she did reach out to me.
What is the number again?
832-9962.
You can tell her I'll meet the earliest possible
Early
time
morning?
she
All
can
right.
be here.
That's on
Before
Wednesday this
noon.
week?
Yes,
Before
sir.
noon.
Okay.
Oh, that's this
All
one.
Anybody have anything else? I got one thing, if nobody else has anything.
Don't have a thing.
I feel like I have to bring this up at today's meeting because I was approached by someone earlier today about signs on city and state right-of-ways. We weren't supposed to be letting them put them there, but in my opinion, the day before the election, we're gonna leave them here, and then we're gonna have to look into that about political signs. We're gonna have to pay more attention to it and decide we're gonna leave them in state right-of-ways and things, because the state says you can't do it. Even though we voted, you know, to leave signs up, state right-of-ways, they're still illegal. So, but I don't see at this point we do anything at this time of the game, so I just want to bring it to your attention and say we need to address it, maybe at the next meeting.
I think Commissioner Ashbrook said it best, and you said what?
I said, if it's on the books, we enforce it, if not, change it. Simple as that. We can remove the political sign, but I guess what you're saying is in there, it says it's state statute, you can't put it on a state right away.
Right, that's it.
So is it whose responsibility to pull that?
State
That's the
person.
question.
I think state person, I don't think it'd be ours.
Well, we have an ordinance in place that says they're prohibited.
We pull signs off of state property.
Off the right of way.
Right of way.
Okay,
Off the
so we
right-
have
right now-
authorization to do that.
Your ordinance says that you can have one political sign per parcel on private property.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, my
Like I
opinion
say,
will never change on that, Mayor.
That's why it's this late in the game, I don't see going and taking those signs up today and we'll take them up Wednesday. All right, anything else? We adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
We're off the air.
Money's a general.